Today, I have with me Erik Hupje joining us all the way from Brisbane, Australia. Erik is the founder of roadtoreliability.com. Welcome, Erik.
Hi, Ryan. Thanks for that. It's good to be here.
All right. Well, I've been looking forward to this conversation for a very long time. You know that I've been following you for quite some time now. And I'm really glad that we can finally have this time to connect over masterminds and maintenance. So maybe, to kick things off the ground, would love to start off with you sharing a little bit more about your background and how you got into this industry.
Yeah, sure. As you can probably hear from my accent, I'm not a native English speaker, so I actually grew up and originated from the Netherlands. I went to school there, went to university there, and I left in 1998. And since then, I've been around the world, initially working in the UK, then spent about 7 years in the Philippines and moved with the family to the Middle East, where we lived for 5 years. And back in 2013, we came with the family again to Australia, here in Brisbane. And that's where we've been since, and that's where we intend to stay. And in fact, since 2017, we've become proud Australians.
All right. Well, congratulations. It sounds like you've traveled the world. You're now calling Australia home. I'm curious, Erik, how did you get into the field of maintenance and reliability? What's your background?
Yeah, so I started off as in an engineering position initially in the UK. Did minor plan changes and modifications, worked on a major offshore project, and then after about 4 or 5 years, I moved to the Philippines in a role that was more a business role, an asset strategist, and that was all about setting up systems to help the organization move from a mega project environment to an asset management environment, right? So those are very, very different. You need very different ways of working, which was a great experience, but I wanted to get back into a technical role. And the plan was to become the project engineer on a project that was due to kick off. Unfortunately, the project was uneconomical and canceled. So I then had a conversation with the asset manager who I knew well, and I said, well, now what? And he said, well, why don't you go and have a look at our maintenance performance, because we have a lot of issues. Our equipment is especially offshore, was in pretty bad shape. The plant is not reliable. We're spending a lot of money. So why don't you spend some time there and have a look and tell me what's going on? So yeah, that's how I got started. I started doing some analysis and some improvement, and that got me into maintenance.
All right. And what has been your journey since then, moving into this industry, moving up into this industry? And then I would love to dig deep a little bit into you starting, Road to Reliability.
Yeah, so I mean, after that initial role, I did that for about year and a half. I then picked up the execution role. So I was responsible for leading the maintenance execution onshore and offshore, which I learned a lot from, especially on an asset that was in a pretty bad shape. We were very reactive as an organization because of the condition of the asset. I did that for a while. And then in the Middle East, I did basically the maintenance build for a new mega project. So that was setting up all the CMMS, writing the maintenance strategies, etc. So I've seen kind of the full spectrum across the life cycle. In terms of why I set up the Road to Reliability, there's probably two things that I've noticed and that's kind of frustrated me over the years as I've traveled across the world and worked in different places. And there's two main things. First is that I really think we make maintenance a lot more complicated than it needs to be. It's sure, there's a lot of technology and a lot of advances that a lot of people can use. But if you look at the typical plant around the world, then there's tens of thousands of these plants. They struggle with the basics. They struggle with planning and scheduling. They struggle with improving their PM program, getting basic defects out, all those kind of basic things. And I really think that if the bulk of the plants around the world would adopt some of those basic practices and really get them under their belt, they would see a massive transformation in their performance. And the other thing I found is when I worked in the Middle East or when I worked in Asia, I found it was really hard to get access to good training. It's if you're in the US or if you're in Europe, like the UK or here in Australia, you just go online and there's plenty of people who can offer training, right? And they can come and fly to your plant, or you can go and attend a public seminar. But if you're in the Philippines or if you're in Oman or somewhere in Africa, that's not the case. And flying out trainers can be very expensive. And I really believe that, when you want to build and improve maintenance reliability, it all comes from knowing what you need to know, right? Understanding the basics and getting that in place. So those were the two main things that drove me to set up the Road to Reliability. I offer a very simple framework that is around planning and scheduling, defect elimination, doing that with some good leadership and behavioral practices, some culture building. And then eventually I intend to support that with online training courses to help people all over the world access that kind of knowledge.
That's amazing. And how long has it been for you running Road to Reliability?
Well, it's still very much a side thing. So I kicked this off about a year and a half ago, I think, 2 years ago. Built a website. I'm in the process of building the first course around maintenance planning and scheduling. That will launch early next year. But you know, as I said, it's a side thing. I still have actually two, well, not two anymore, but I have a job. So it's something that takes a lot of time, and I'm really passionate about it. But to do it well, it's taken a bit longer than I thought it would do. But that's how it goes.
It always happens that way, huh, Eric?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And I do strongly believe that, you know, if you do these things, you got to do them well. So, you know, that course has taken, it's been a bit of a labor of love in a way. So it's taken longer to get it ready than I thought.
What are all the different ways that our listeners can connect with you and follow you?
Well, I'm on LinkedIn. That's probably the easiest place to reach me. LinkedIn, or through my website, roadtoreliability.com. There's a contact form there. There's a community there that's free for anybody to join and discuss and raise questions. So those will be the two best places, either on LinkedIn or on through my website, roadtoreliability.com.